Great. Welcome everyone to the Town of Greater Napanee regular session of council for the 25th day of August, 2026. Just before we call the meeting to order, I just want to remind everyone this evening that this evening's meeting is being live streamed via our YouTube channel. So welcome to those that are in the body of the council chambers this evening. Welcome to those that are watching tonight, and welcome to those that will watch us at a later date. So having said all that, we'll call the meeting to order, and we'll start our meeting with our opening proceeding, which is the playing of the national anthem. So I'll ask those in the body of the council chambers to stand and face the flag as we play our national anthem. Great. Thanks, everyone. Just before we get going, we're going to deal with a closed session that we had earlier this evening. So I'll look for a motion to go into or to do our rise and report from closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. I would like to report that in closed session this evening, that council received for information the confidential appointments to the Joint Compliance Audit Committee report, and further that council approved the recommended appointments and direct that a bylaw be brought to the September 8th, 2026 meeting for adoption. Look for a motion to note and receive that. Moved by Councillor Norrie, second by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. The next matter is confidential SR 1429-2026 legal advice that council received for information, the confidential legal advice report. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion's carried. And I'm just going to back up because we do have some rising reports, Madam Clerk, I think from August 11th and 25th. Am I correct?
Through your worship, yes, since August 11th was only closed session, the special meeting will do the rise and report now.
Okay, so having said this one here, right? Yeah. We'll look for a motion to note and receive the confidential SR 1434-2026 land sale, former Suddard lands. The council received for information the confidential land sale, former Suddard lands report, and further that council direct and authorize staff to proceed as directed in closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calver, second by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. And finally, confidential SR 1433-2026 Human Resources Report, August 11th. The council received for information the confidential human resources report. Moved by Councillor Norrie, second by Councillor Martin. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? The motion is carried. Look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion's carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest this evening? Seeing none. Deputations, scheduled deputations, new items. I don't believe we have any, Madam Clerk. Deputations item on the agenda. We do have one deputation, J. Bogdanowicz. Ms. Bogdanowicz is here. And so welcome, Ms. Bogdanowicz. I don't know if you've been here in person or not. The microphone in front of you, there's a button in the middle. It says push. You just have to push it. And once the green light is on, the green light is on. And we'll be able to hear you, but you have to have the green light on so the folks at home can hear you as well. So whenever you're ready, the floor will be yours.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I appreciated the conversation at the last meeting very much. And I appreciated that there was a unanimous interest in a bylaw review of, I guess, orders to mow tall grasses. I also very much appreciated that 2 council members came to the property to see the garden that we are trying to naturalize. And they spoke highly of it during the council meeting and, suggested that others could do the same as well on their properties. I appreciated the staff report that was turned around very quickly, and that was very thorough, although I have a few questions about that report today. And I guess what I'm kind of left wondering is that regardless of, the praise I received from the councillors, staff continue to recommend upholding the order to mow. And so again, I'm here to request that the order is canceled and to just confirm again that this issue is causing a great amount of distress for me and my family. One of the things in the report that I found that was interesting that I wanted to highlight was an interpretive direction that pollinator gardens and naturalized lawns could fall within the existing exemption for ornamental grasses that currently exist in the bylaw. And if that interpretation is taken, that would protect our garden and others like it as the bylaw update proceeds without requiring council to wait until the next term to act. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting, let's not call it a loophole, but a kind of interesting interpretation to address this issue. I'm also here to seek clarification about the report. In particular, the report recommends mowing along 2 of my property lines, but it says that I don't need to mow if the area is a wetland. And those property lines contain cattails. And so in my interpretation, this is, part of a stormwater swale. And I'm curious to know if that would be considered a wetland or not. The report also suggests that the order is canceled. However, it kind of suggests that it could be opened up again before the next term of council. And so again, I'm here to humbly ask that the decision that is made today closes the issue for us until the bylaw can be updated. The topic of ticks and pests came up at the last meeting, and I wanted to refer to the letter that council has received by Joyce Hostlin, who is a Thousand Islands Master Gardener. She wanted to, I guess, point council to a number of scientific papers that have been written on the issue. And if council proceeds with updating the bylaw, I encourage that those involved in that, that they consult the latest scientific papers on the issue. And in particular, just to quote her, her letter, she says that black-legged ticks, and their abundance is driven by deer access, white-footed mice populations, and woodland proximity. And it's and plant height and mowing schedules do not quite, contribute to tick populations. And so finally, just to conclude, again, I'm here, as I've mentioned in my letter, I will not be destroying my garden and forced to mow. And if the town decides to destroy the garden, I will have no choice but to take legal action for damages. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ms. Bogdanowicz. Just hang tight and we'll see if, We'll see if council has any questions for you. Okay, so council, do you have any questions or comments for Julie with respect to her deputation here this evening? Deputy Mayor Calver.
Thank you, through your worship. The black-legged tick. There's a lot of different talks about what causes, what doesn't cause, where they live, where they don't live. As much as you're saying that the long grass doesn't attribute to them and so on and so forth. There's also documents out there that say it does. I'm just a little concerned. I mean, we have bylaws in place for a reason. And here we are, as much as you enjoy your natural garden, natural yard, and I did take a drive out there, by the way. I didn't knock on your door. I went and seen what I could see from the road. And I see your trails that you've got cut through your property and stuff. But I'm just concerned myself. I know with our property that we maintain and look at 100+ acres of land, and we have trails as well, and we do have ticks on the property as well. And it's a nonstop fight to try to keep them, and we keep everything cut back on our trails and so on and so forth. But yeah, I'm just a little concerned when you say that the long grass doesn't inhibit these ticks, because we have them too, and they're everywhere, and especially in southeastern Ontario, these ticks are all over the place. So anyways, that was all I've got to say on that. So I still believe our bylaws are still good and should be followed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else for Ms. Bogdanowicz before we move on? Seeing none, hang tight, Julie. We will have, I'm sure, a robust conversation about the matter later on in the agenda. So relax and see how we do things here in Napanee. So thank you. I'll look for a motion to note and receive the deputation of Julie Bogdanowicz. Moved by Councillor Norrie, second by Deputy Mayor Calver. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Unfinished business. The first matter is updated executive services, labor relations, reserve spending thresholds, and governance framework. And Mr. Grant, I think you're going to speak to that. So when you get settled in there, we'll allow you to take the floor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Your Worship, to members of council. This is an item that is coming back with respect to labor relations reserve. The initial tranche of money going into the reserve is $155,000 from Workplace Safety and Insurance Board. And the team has also talked about how to have recurring support for that kind of reserve. The current theory is what's called gapping dollars. So there will be monies that are unspent on budgeted salary dollars due to turnover or recruitment and that sort of thing. And that's dedicated for HR, so should be going for HR purposes. Council at our last meeting expressed a desire to understand exactly how this money would be allocated and spent, how council could perform its fiduciary duty in terms of spending limits, while also creating a separation on specific HR matters. And I think that we've struck a reasonable balance here, and I'm happy to get your views on it. So the proposed delegated authority limits, the way that it is proposed to work is that there'd be a maximum spend of $25,000 for things such as recruitment advertising, executive or specialized recruitment services, candidate assessment and testing tools, relocation assistance, things like that for recruitment and staffing transition costs, termination, severance, and workforce restructuring costs, such as contractual termination pay, severance obligations, vacation payout liabilities, labor relations and legal expenses and investigation costs, such as external labor employment legal services, workplace investigations, under some of our policies, such as the workplace harassment bylaw, arbitration and mediation costs, human rights or employment compliance matters, WSIB and accommodation costs. So I would have the authority to authorize the spend on the recommendation of Human Resources, and would do so in consultation with the treasurer. Anything exceeding that, and candidly, anything serious would exceed that. It just would come to council for an in-camera discussion in a general sense, without getting into the specific HR files per se, but this is the problem we're trying to solve, and this is why we think this avenue is the proper avenue to solve it, and this is how much we believe that we need above and beyond what is our delegated authority. I would expect a lot of spending would be minor in nature and far below the $25,000 threshold. One of the things that sparked this discussion candidly was the fact that HR had no recruitment budget. That candidly was a problem from my perspective. We were using our own website, social media, and that sort of thing to try to find appropriate staff. And sometimes we're looking for very specialized people in a very competitive market. So I'll give you an example. He's not here anymore online, so I can embarrass him. Mr. Nanton is someone that we did an expanded search for using very specific advertising methods, particularly the Association of Planners websites, and which come at a cost. And that's where we found him. And that is candidly a get because planners are hard to find. There's a number of different kinds of professions that are hard to fill, and that is one of them at this point in time. So we would see things such as that. And anything above and beyond that, as I mentioned, we would bring to council for your authorization. We would give you a full rationale. And, you know, as we do financial reporting, we would indicate these are where monies were spent and the reason that they were spent that way. And with that, I or Ms. Nat Fisher are happy to answer any of your questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Councillor Norris.
Mr. Grant, I think I know the answer, but the relocation assistance, is that to sweeten the pot to say to bring someone from the other end of the lake, from a big city to here or something like that? Is that the idea?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, short answer, yes. So if we're pulling people from, if we're trying to entice them from the Greater Toronto area or beyond, it's unlikely we'd be able to pay full relocation. But sometimes that's what's needed to give us a competitive edge over a different organization.
Thought so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Norrie. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else, Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mr. Grant, the reserve fund was or is or whatever it was at 155,000. And
Mr. Mayor, yes, it is.
okay, so if the corporation saves money during the year, that's going to be replenished by that money saved. So what happens if there's X number of dollars saved and you build up that fund to a large amount? I mean, I like reserve funds, believe me, for, you know, fire truck, snow plows, building maintenance, that type of thing. But I'm just wondering why HR usually isn't an emergency situation. Like usually HR can come to council for funds or whatever. And should there maybe be a cap on the reserve fund as far as, I mean, how much money would you recommend that, or you would think is going to be needed in a particular year?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Martin, difficult to say depending on year to year. So I would agree that there's no emergency situations per se, but human resources is part of the business that costs money, has cost money. We can cost that out over the last several years. We've just been pulling it from other places. So it's come at the expense of some other places. I would say, do I think that the reserve is going to get quite a bit higher year over year savings? I would love to have that problem. I don't think we're going to have that problem, only because of some of the past dollars that have been spent for specific reasons, whether it be arbitration that we recently went through, if we have mediation costs, recruitment costs, there's an ongoing cost that are fairly healthy. And I wouldn't suggest that we'd want to go much over 150 unless if it if it indicated, a circumstance that indicated that we needed more than that, we would come to you and ask to raise the threshold. If we were over that, my expectation would be that finance would tell you, look, we are over the threshold of the reserve that was originally set up by council. What would you like to do with the money? So I don't think we're going to see the reserve grow and grow and grow per se. It's unlike other reserves in that there's continuous operating needs, but it's been a negotiation between HR and others between how things will be funded, where the money's going to come from. Are people going to get the same level of service based on the budget they have to allocate for a recruitment effort or whatnot? And we're looking to sort of standardize the service so everyone gets the same level of service, if you may, or if you will. So that's the intention for it. I don't know if I answered your question there, Councillor.
In a roundabout way, yeah. Thank you. Can I just, so is that, does this mean if we have a reserve fund of 150, roughly $1,000, that will no longer be a budget item? Because other years we've actually budgeted for HR expenses, have we not? And I mean, if there's an expense coming that needs to be paid for, it usually comes out of the general reserve as opposed to having this. I mean, I don't know how many reserves we have now. I've heard a number of reserves over the last 4 years, and I just want to make sure that council is aware of every dollar spent. But we all know that next year is going to be a challenging year budget-wise. So I'm just trying to get a perspective on what's going ahead as far as our budgeting is concerned.
I think our human resources professional may be able to weigh in on this, Mr. Grant. So go ahead, Holly.
Thank you, through your worship. We, of course, now my brain has gone completely empty. Oh my goodness. My brain's empty. Yeah, thank you. In the past, we have budgeted for known expenses in HR that have come up. So when we know we're going to arbitration, when we know we're doing those certain, when we're going to have higher than normal legal fees. But in a lot of the situations that you see listed in this reserve here, they're unknown. They happen kind of just as they happen. So I foresee this being a separate pot of money for that exact reason. We will still likely budget for these higher expense ticket items that we know are coming. So we won't be pulling from those reserves for that specific thing when we know it's coming. But otherwise, everything else listed in this reserve, it kind of comes up as the year goes on. And that's why we're asking for this specific pot of money on the side to pull from.
Yep, go ahead, Bill.
So this is just for emergency funds? This isn't for, so we'll still be looking at budgeting for normal HR expenses. So
Through your worship, yes, we will still be planning on budgeting for normal known HR expenses. I'm not confident the word emergency is the right word because that has a certain context associated with it. But these are the unknown costs that happen throughout the year. They happen every year. They're going to happen every year, but you can't plan for them because you don't know which ones are going to come up.
thank you.
Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll give an example for you, Councillor. So some of the recruitment costs that we would incur, we wouldn't know. People don't often forecast in advance before they've found a new job. They let you know when they've secured a new job. Not that we want anyone to leave. But the difference in recruiting certain positions versus other positions, there will be a difference in cost in how you would have to go to recruit, because one year we might find a difficult to recruit position that we have to invest more money into to find the right person. And other ones, those types of people that could fill those positions are more abundant in the area. We might have an HR investigation that comes up for whatever reason that we weren't anticipating that we would need funds for, but we wouldn't be necessarily anticipating those because a matter might have popped up that would be contrary to a policy and we're obligated under policy to act. But we wouldn't have been able to foresee those because we didn't plan for someone to break a policy.
Thank you, Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Councilor Martin. Go ahead, Councilor Shank.
Hi, Matthew. I'll give you an analogy. I had a wise man tell me once that, and this is councils, what's happened in the past. All right. So if a child touches the stove when it's really hot, it's a little gun shy touching it again. So there's a concern here. All right. And I'm just being honest. All right. That are we giving you the keys to the safe? You know what I mean? I know it's 155,000, but are we losing any authority of, no, we're not going to pay that out, or no, we're not going to do this, or we're losing that? Now, I'm in agreement with what you're doing, all right? Cautiously, all right? But Ellen is going to give us a quarterly financial breakdown. Anything is, I have faith, because we have great staff, that anything that's contentious, that is, it doesn't do the smell test, because we're not a municipality that just goes, we'll bend, or no, you know what I mean? If it has to go to that route, we'll go that route. You know what I mean? But we have to be fair and honest with ourselves also, and where that money's spent. And that's where I think where Bill's coming from, also, or Councillor Martin is coming from, is that we just want to make sure that we're not out of the loop, that we're still in that loop. With Ellen's financial, what she's going to give us to us, and what your communication skills, Matthew and Holly, what you guys are doing, I feel confident that you're doing it. So I'm not saying I'm not going to look at it with a real magnifying glass, but it's definitely going to be looked at. So that's what my concern is. As long as you address those type of concerns with the future council, then you know what I mean, what their concern might be, because, once bitten, twice shy, you know what I mean? So that's where you're into a shy state right now. So that's all.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So I'll speak to that, Councillor, and invite Holly to weigh in. So I'd first say, through you, Mr. Mayor, if we were going to rob the safe, I'd ask you for a lot more money. I really would. And there's nothing in this policy that would allow us to spend $150,000 in one shot. So what you're seeing in terms of a $25,000 limit, that's around that's actually quite a bit less than my delegated authority already. To date in my time here, I like working here, so I wouldn't spend that without telling you, unless it was a serious emergency, like I need to act and spend something now, or we're going to lose a lot more. What I would say is, let's call it, say if there was a dismissal that had to be made for whatever reason. Some of this would be enough to cover the statutory limits that we'd be required to pay anyway. If we were looking to have a negotiated settlement that would far exceed that for whatever reason, $25,000 probably wouldn't do it, candidly. And if we were going to do that and look to get into a negotiated settlement, I would more than likely give you the situation of, here's the situation we're in. Here's the management decision that I need to make. I need to, pull this amount of funds for this reason. And if I don't do that, here are some other options in order to get to the outcome that we need to get to. If it's not financial, like right away, it might be not that anyone's going to get fired, but it would be something like salary continuance to spread out money as opposed to a lump sum out of the reserve. There'd be different ways to get at it, but we're quite aware of the hot stove. We've taken great pains to ensure that staff and council have a high degree of trust, and we value that. And it's not in our interest, nor do we desire to lose that.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
There's not all 25,000. There's an item in here, 15,000. So that's the reason why but the reason why I'm saying that is because in the past, a limit was 15,000. And an individual would go ahead and 14,552, and then the next month would be 14,582. You know what I mean? I'm still below my limit. You know what I mean? As long as none of that ever happens, you know what I mean? And I have trust in you guys. So, and you all know that, I don't pound on you every day. So there we go. So yeah, that's the reason why the concern is there. That's all.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if it gives you any comfort, Councilor, I'm remarkably cheap.
Thanks, Councillor Shank. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Thank you, through your worship. Know exactly where you're coming from, Mike. For a lot of years, we'd say, you hear the saying, well, we'll find the money. This isn't money we're going to find. This is money for a specific job. This is for HR. This isn't just a slush fund for others to pull out of. This is HR money, their responsibility. And I have nothing but the utmost respect and trust for our staff. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Is there anything else? If not, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the updated Executive Services Labor's Relations Reserve Spending Thresholds and Governance Framework Report, and further that council approve the proposed thresholds for delegated authority spending in each category. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to the motions on the floor? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Next matter is growth and infrastructure. Request for land transfer 341 Camden Road, portion of Millhouse Yard stormwater pond land. And Mr. Grant, you're going to speak to that as well?
I'm going to parrot the notes that Mr. Nobes was kind enough to give me, as he's not here today. So if you'll bear with me, I just need to pull that up. Okay. So the subject property that is in the report speaks to fencing and the like. So the fencing is to delineate the limit of town-owned stormwater pond area, which was approved through budget. A survey was completed to determine exact property line for the fence installation. The property line bisects two mature pear trees, which were planted by the owner of 341 Camden Road several years ago. The owner of 341 would like to see the trees retained through the installation of the fence. The owner has requested either the town shift the fence further onto town property to avoid trees effectively, that would effectively give up town-owned land, which is not something that staff would recommend. Town compensate for the loss of the trees. A $400 tree if the fence is installed on the property line. And respectfully, I think if there's a tree on our property, that's candidly our tree. But the town transferred a 5-foot wide strip of land for $1 to the owner to shift the property line away from the trees. There's several different approaches to sell. You could sell the owner a 5-foot wide strip along the rear property line, roughly an $890 sale price, to legally shift the property line to allow the trees to remain. If council elects to proceed with the sale of the land, the next step would be to declare the land surplus, which requires public notice and bylaw to allow the transfer would come to a future meeting. This would be a Class 2 surplus, as there's only one property that could acquire this land. So that is, I believe, Mr. No's recommended option. The other option, I think, that would come up is council directed staff to come up with a tree bylaw. You may recall, if in the event that we were going to install a fence and had to remove a tree to do so, we would be obligated to plant 2 trees under that policy, which has yet to come forward. But I would say those are the options. I believe Mr. Nobes has the recommended option of a land sale, just to preserve the trees as they are. If council wanted a different option, that would be one of them. And with that, I'm happy to answer sort of questions to the best of my ability.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Grant. We'll try and venture through this and see what we can do for you. So first of all, is there any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Sorry, Matthew. Start off with, I would like to say that somehow or another, I'd like to see those trees saved. That's one of my, I was over there actually the other day, and I don't know if you recall at council, prior councils, another resident over there actually bought a small area of, and it's right beside this property, to square off his property and to make it one continual square fence there. So I'm just wondering, and you probably maybe don't know this, maybe you do, whether that neighbor was notified, because I know there is some concern that now that there's a bump out of his property next door, it's going to affect the new fence that he put up just recently within the last, I think it was a month maybe, roughly. So I don't know if that neighbor was contacted at all about his comments.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will have to look in that and get back to you, Counselor.
Thank you. There's some other things I'm asking about this too. Out of the 6 options that that we have here, I just wanted to ask, why not number 4? Which is, well, I'll let you read it.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if I read that correctly, we'd be installing a fence further on our property. We would still own some property, but not have effective use of it.
Right.
So we're not recommending it for that reason, because normally if you're going to put fences, you put it on the property line of what.
Normally, yes.
Yeah. And so I think if the desire was to maintain the trees and not cut them down and replace them, but and allow the individual that planted them to retain ownership, a Class 2 land sale is the way to go, because then there is no ambiguity over who owns what.
Yeah, I understand kind of, but it seems to me it would save this particular person that's requesting the trees be saved and giving him land for $1 basically is what he's requesting for. And I think we're talking about 5 feet roughly from what I was looking at over there for a bump out. I just think that it's not going to be of any use to him or the town where that fence is. I mean, it's only going to go to serve to save the trees. And if we sell it to him, it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a bump out to save the trees. The only thing is that, yeah, you're right. It clarifies who owns it possibly. But when you're talking about 5 feet to save a tree, I would think number 4 would be, it would save surveys, money, legal costs. That's all I'm looking at.
Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, point of clarity as well is like the trees were planted by the individual, but the tree on our property legally is our tree.
I agree.
Yeah. So I would say that.
Although, excuse me, Mr. Grant, I looking at it, and I'm not a surveyor, but looking at it, the one looked like it was on his property. The other one was right on the property line, possibly if you measured with a a GPS instrument. But it's more on town land than it is his. But I'm just,
So
just to clarify where the trees are.
through you, Mr. Rep, fair enough. Partially our tree.
Yeah.
So what I would say is this, I would look at this through the principle of what would we do for any other property if it wasn't just these trees, but it was some other thing. I think the principle of ownership is something that we would want to maintain and be really clear about who owns what.
Okay.
Only because with land ownership comes responsibilities, comes liability, comes a number of different things. So if it's our intention to ensure that the trees can be preserved and owned by the individual, then I would go through the effort of surveying it out. And so the fence is in the proper place and ownership is not in question. It's in the unlikely event that something happened on land that we owned but had no custody over. That puts us in a very precarious position, not only in this, but in other areas of land ownership.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Matthew, my main concern is to save the trees, but I mean, if we sell 5 feet of this property and give them a bump out, and it costs 5,000 to 7,000, I'm reading their report here, to do that, do we know if that property owner is prepared to spend that money for, like he's asking for $1, I'm assuming he's not going to want to spend $5,000 to $7,000 legal fees and survey. So I guess my last question will be, if he doesn't buy it because he doesn't want to spend the money, are we going to cut the trees down? Because I'd really hate to see those 2 trees go. Thank you.
Okay.
I won't ask anymore.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, and for the record, Councilor Martin, you can ask as many questions as you like. It's why we're here. But so I would say a couple of different things. In line with the land sale bylaw and the principles of value for real estate, I would always advocate that we sell land for what it's worth and not necessarily what someone wants to pay per se. There is a value to that land. I'm quite certain it's more than $1. Giving someone, even for regardless of the purpose and how, no matter how honorable it is, I think we have an obligation as a municipality to steward, land ownership resources and charge what the land is worth. In the event that we were going to, if a tree had to come down because we're putting a fence on the property line, that's when I believe that the policy that was recommended and approved by council for us to bring back, we would plant 2 others in recognition of a healthy tree being removed due to the work initiated by the town. I believe that this is something that actually speaks to exactly the intent of the policy that Councillor Hicks brought forward and council passed. That, I mean, nobody wants to cut down a tree that we don't have to. Like, full stop, we do everything in our power to avoid it. If we were putting a fence on a property line, which is the recommended place to put a fence to delineate ownership, and it required a tree, but maybe not both, to be cut down, I would say that we should replant 2 of the same species in as near a proximity as we could. That would be my recommendation on that, Councillor, if council doesn't want to have a bump out and entertain a sale.
Thank you for that, Matthew.
Thanks, Councilor Martin. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gower.
Thank you, through your worship. Is David still online? Or is David gone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, David is not on the line.
Okay. I had reached out to him earlier today. I wanted some clarification, but I was just trying to figure out, we did to the neighboring property. I'm trying to find, I'd like just verification what we did to sell him that bit of land he wanted to do, because we gotta kind of stick with our town's best practice. In my opinion anyways. It is a class 2 land, but we can't do one without doing for everyone. So that's just my way of thinking. And I had one more. These pear trees, I didn't see here how big they are. Are they something that could be could have somebody specially come in with a tree spade and relocate these trees? I don't know how big a pear tree gets. I drove by a couple of times. I couldn't see them. So thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Grant, see if you can
So
weigh
through
in
you,
on
Mr.
that one.
Mayor, I don't know the answer to that, but we can certainly investigate if they can be relocated. In terms of land, I would say that there's a very clear process by how council can dispose of land that it owns. So first part of that would be to declare a piece of property surplus. You can declare a whole property. You can decide that there's an element of a property and you need to resurvey it and parcel it out. And so if it doesn't have access to, public roadway or something else, it would be deemed class 2 because there's only a few properties that would abut that could buy that. That is a very prescribed process in the land sale bylaw. So we would offer that to anyone if they came forward. Normally, we would only offer surplus lands. In extenuating circumstances, you would have to declare it surplus. So there'd be additional steps towards that. And as for removing the tree and relocating it, I can certainly ask the team, and we could come back with that information if that's of interest.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Grant. I think Madam Clerk is going to weigh in here, I think. Then I'll go back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Your worship, and I just want to add to confirm that I believe it was last year, council did go through the class 2 land sale process with the neighbor, and that property owner purchased the land from the town at the set value in the policy and was responsible for all the legal transfer fees for that transaction.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That's been very helpful. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Gower.
Thank you, Your Worship. I thought that's what we what had taken place. I just was looking for a refresher, and then thank you, Madam Clerk, for that. Yeah, Mr. Grant, I'd like to see some sort of report brought back before we make any decisions as to if these trees could be movable and what the cost would be at that. I mean, if we go with what we've laid out in past, which I believe we should stick to what we've done in past, Class 2 lands, you're saying it's worth approximately $890, but then the cost to do the transfer, the surveys and stuff could be between $5,000 and $7,000. That's a big chunk to pay for a little land to save a couple of trees, if in fact for maybe $2,000 they can be plucked from the ground and replanted. I don't know, just worth looking at every option before we just decide to throw this out. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We'll go to Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if that be the will of council, I would recommend a motion on that to direct that staff go and find out if it is feasible to relocate the trees and then come back and address this at another time.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Go ahead, Councillor Shank.
No, Matthew, this might sound a simple question, but did he not own that land where those trees are? Or they were with all the subdivision and with the milk house pond and everything else, and then the lot line ended up being there? I'm just trying to get in my mind, why did he plant the trees so close to the lot line if he wanted to keep your line? If he wanted to keep the trees and he planted them, why wouldn't he plant them further on his own property?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know that I can speak to the mindset of someone else and choices that they made. What I will say is it's not terribly unusual for people not to be 100% familiar with where lot lines are. We've had other cases where structures have been built, fences have been built, that sort of thing.
What I'm trying to understand is that why would the municipality change a boundary line when, so therefore, you know what I mean, where somebody else planted some trees, all right? I'm sorry, if you wanted to keep those trees, you put it on yourself. But also one of his requests are that if you have to take them out, he'd like to get paid $400 a tree. All right, so all I'm saying is it doesn't, I don't understand where you guys are going. Like if I wanted to plant some trees, I would make sure that they're on my own property. All right, I can't complain about it afterwards when go, oh, so bad, they're mature trees, I want you to pay because it's not on I planted them not on my own property. So good fences, good neighbors. So I don't know why you want to go down through, I'm not willing to sell. It's the people's, it's not your own individual land, it's the taxpayer's land. That 5 feet, it could be used for trail, it could be used for other things, whatever it might be, all right, for that cost. Because somebody planted trees on your own land, not his own land, all right? So I don't understand the rationale behind this whole thing. So as far as I'm concerned, this is where the fence is going and everything else. And if it happens to be on the edge, well, it'll be on the edge. If he wants to move them, he can move them. We'll grant him that. But that's where the fence is going. Have a nice day. You're going to have to buy a couple more trees, and we're not paying you $400 because we hit the tree because you planted them on the wrong side of the property. That's the way I look at it. Maybe I'm the bad boy, but that's the facts.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point in the evening, I'm going to remind Michael that he owes me $50. But what I would say is I won't dispute your logic, Councillor. I won't. The land in question is ours. The encumbrance on the lot line that is ours, we didn't put there. I would not be in favor of remunerating somebody for infringing on property that isn't theirs. I think if the trees can be moved, fair enough. I don't disagree that we offer the opportunity for someone else to remove the trees and pay for that. But what I would say is council has already created a mechanism by which we would ensure tree canopy in perpetuity. So if we have to remove a tree, and we're working on this as we speak, we will plant 2 trees in the absence. And we would do that with any, the policy would be such that we would do that with any tree that is removed that is healthy and is removed because we are doing work. will replace them. And I think that would be here. And if council wants to sell the property, they can. If they don't want to sell the property, they don't have to. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think anybody is advocating we sell him that land for $1 like he wanted. He should pay the same as everybody else does for Class 2 land. But Councillor Shank, I think in town, a lot of people eyeball their lot line and they'll plant shrubs and trees on it. And I got a feeling that's what happened with these, but 15, 20 years ago. And it wasn't intentional to put it on town land. He was probably thought he was putting it on his own land. So it's that close. If you look at that sketch, it looks like the one tree is right on the red line and the other one's just inside on it. So anyway, just wanted to add that. And like I say, nobody's advocating we do what he wants to sell it to him for $1. Absolutely not. And we certainly wouldn't pay him $400 per tree either, but that's just what he wanted. Asking doesn't mean we should.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. It's Councillor David.
Through you, Mayor. I guess looking at it, the way I see that chunk of ground, like it doesn't look like it carries a whole lot of value for the town itself as far as that retention pond area and whatnot. There's still room to do more work in there. So like staff recommendation, bump the fence to east, make an offer of fair market value, pay that. If he's not interested, give him the chance to move the trees under his own dollar. Otherwise, we'll look after it. The fence is going where it was initially intended and the trees will have to be moved and we'll plant 4 new trees on the retention pond property and move on. It seems fairly straightforward to me. And that's I don't know, that's just how I see it.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. I think you might have took some of the words out of my mouth here, so thank you for that. Is there anything else? Seeing none, and I'll just weigh in briefly. I mean, I like what Sean had to say is that we've got a process. We got it to, and we've literally just gone through that process probably months prior to, where it's a very similar type of thing where there's a small sliver piece of land. It made sense to sell it to the neighboring landowners. It's a Class 2 piece of property. And so it made sense. But that landowner at the time decided that they were going to pay the cost to get that. It was worth him, or it was worth that cost to do that. So I don't think we should venture too far away from that. So I like what Sean has to say is that we direct staff that we say, listen, it is a type 2 or a Class 2 piece of property. This is what the rules are around that. We'll give you that opportunity to buy that 5 feet, but that's your responsibility to do that. And he's going to make a decision, I think, as to whether that's going to be worth it or not. If it's not worth it and we need to take the trees out of there, then we'll do what we do best, which is we'll make good for it, because we'll plant 2 trees for every tree that we take down, because that's what we said we're going to do. But I think we give the landowner the opportunity. I know that I think he planted those trees 15, 20 years ago. He seems to be attached to those trees, but we give him the opportunity to take to buy that sliver of land. And we have to keep in mind that if that's the direction that we're going to go, we still do have to go through the surplus property. So there is some time left here to go through this, that if anybody has a change of heart, then we can still deal with it. So I like the first option there, which is to proceed with the next steps for the Class 2 piece of property in that amount of time. It will give him the opportunity, and us the opportunity as well, to see whether or not these trees can be removed. And if they are, then that's great. And if they can't be, then well, at least we'll get the landowner the opportunity to do that. So that would be my suggestion. And I have it as I think Madam Clerk is the first option that we have. And okay, thank you, Councillor Davey. And I think from what I'm hearing is that council directs staff to proceed with the next steps in the consideration of the Class 2 property sale with no reduction to the established valuation rate for Class 2 land sales, and a final decision regarding whether to declare the land as surplus and approve a Class 2 sale be made following the public notice period. So we do have to, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Through your worship, we do it, and I recognize that I wrote that earlier today, but on reflection, if the landowner is not willing to pay any money for this, the town may not want to bother doing that public notice and incurring those expenses. So it may be prudent to direct staff to advise the landowner of council's direction, and if he's amenable to proceeding, then we do the public notice.
And I guess, again, once again, I assumed, and I shouldn't assumed, I assumed that probably staff would come back to us and say, listen, the landowner doesn't want to do that. So maybe we bring this back to council. So did you wish to reword that recommendation, or do we just add that on the bottom of this one? I guess the easy thing is that we give staff direction to communicate council's direction to the landowner, and then to bring back a report at a future date once we have the direction from the landowner as to how he would like to try and proceed with this. And I know that Madam Clerk can wordsmith this much better than I did.
So through your worship, I think we could have the council direct staff to communicate that the town is willing to initiate the Class 2 land sale process with no reduction to the established valuation rate for Class 2 land sales, and to report back to council on the response from the landowner, as well as feasibility of tree relocation, if council wanted to include that as well.
Yeah, and I think so. I think in order to do our due diligence, I think we can put that in there as well. So, Councillor Davey, is that sort of how our conversation went, I think?
Through you, Mayor, yes, that sounds good to me.
Perfect. And we do have a seconder in Councillor Schenk. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns with respect to that motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to growth and infrastructure zoning GIS mapping enhancement. And this matter, I believe, is going to be deferred, Madam Clerk, to the 22nd of September meeting. Am I correct there?
Through your worship, yes, that's correct.
Okay, we'll put that under unfinished business, and that takes us into the administrative consent agenda. Start off, council minutes, regular session of council, July 28th, 2026, special session of council, August 11th, 2026. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone would like to have any discussions or comments about? Seeing none, Recreation Advisory Committee, Trail Development Advisory Committee, Waste Diversion Committee, the Market Square Advisory Committee. Is there anything in those minutes that anyone had any questions or comments about? And go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. In the waste diversion minutes, plus I wanted to make an announcement about the what we'll be doing September the 12th. Here at Town Hall, we'll be giving out blue boxes. The Waste Diversion Committee is going to set up a table with information brochures on the new items that can be recycled. And also, like I say, we're going to give out blue box containers to the first 100 people that come that day to receive them. That's all we have to give out. So I just want to stipulate that everybody's not going to get one. If they're 101, they're going to be out of luck, I'm afraid. But it's going to be September the 12th here at the Market Square, and the diversion committee, myself included, to be set up here, and we'll try to encourage you to do more recycling. If you want to talk to us about ideas about composting, anything you want to talk about, we'll be here to discuss it. But hopefully you'll show up on the 12th of September. The farmers market will be going at the same time. We may be set up at the back, we may be at the front We're not 100% sure of that, but we will be here. So I just wanted to make that announcement first of all. That's all I had on the Waste Diversion Committee, Mayor.
Great, thanks, Councilor Martin. Deputy Mayor Carver.
Thank you, Your Worship. So speaking on behalf of the Trail Development Advisory Committee, we've got off our first meeting, both feet hitting the ground and running, and our second meeting we just held. We've appointed a chair and a deputy or vice chair, and we've come up with some really good ideas, which I think will be coming back to council, coming back this evening for some of the recommendations that we've come up with. And just wanted to say that this trail committee is, it's just an honor to be sitting on it and working with them, because everybody's all rowing in the same direction. It's just a fabulous group of people we've put together for this. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Deputy Mayor Carver. Go ahead, Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on the trails portion there, with the sensitive use, I just wanted to get Madam Clerk's opinion on that, if I could.
Through your worship, I believe there's a staff report later this evening where we can discuss that.
Okay. Because I was just curious, but I know the committee's suggesting it be added to our bylaw. So I'm always concerned about the homeless situation in Springside Park. So I'm finding, if a trail can be designated sensitive use, certainly our park can be too. So that's where I'm going with this. I'll leave it at that though.
Yeah, well, we're going to circle back to that, Bill. We're going to have a discussion about that. So that's probably the best place to deal with that. So was there anything else with respect to the committee minutes? Seeing none, correspondence for information items dated August 25th, 2026. Is there anything in those correspondence anyone would like to pull out or have a conversation about or draw attention to? Seeing none, proclamation request National British Home Child Day. Is there anything in that report that anyone would like to say anything about? And go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, I want to thank the mayor and council for actually doing the proclamation. It's always my privilege, and I because of my personal situation with my own dad being one of the British home children, I always every year enjoy doing this to honor not just my dad, but there was thousands of people that came and settled right in the Napanee and LNA area. So I just want to honor those people who, like I say, settled here in Napanee. And right now there's literally, I think there's 4 or 5 million people in Canada that are descendants of the British home children. So again, my porch light will be on September 28th, and I'm very proud and happy that everybody is doing this proclamation. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thanks, Councilor Martin. Greatly appreciated. And again, it's always nice to hear firsthand knowledge. Sometimes we see the proclamations, they come in and they're words on paper sometimes, but it's nice to hear the real life stuff. So thank you for that. The Executive Services Activity Report, August 2026. Is there anything in that Executive Services report that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, the Greater Napanee Fire Department Activity Report, July 22nd to August 2nd, 2026. Is there anything in that report anybody had any questions or comments about? Councillor Shank.
With great delight, our fire chief, has come up with maybe a solution to solve, the alarm activations, and especially the burn complaints, which is 31 out of the 58 calls that I assume that came out of that area. So when I got the recent email, I went, that's my chief. So I just want to say kudos to you, looking at alternative ways of, of what we can do and what we can't do to save things and still provide a top-notch product. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Shank. Parks, Recreation, and Culture Activity Report. Is there anything in that report anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none. Financial and IT Services Activity Report for August of 2026. And go ahead, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Gower.
Actually, through your worship, I did want to speak on the Parks and Recreation. I just wanted to thank Mr. Brown and his staff. I see the work's underway to do the repair on the town dock, and that's great to see it. It's I know it's been a very trying time to get any work done on that due to high waters and busy schedules of everybody involved. I want to say thank you very much for getting it going.
Great, thanks, Deputy Mayor Calvert. So the Financial and IT Services Activity Report, is there anything in that report that anyone had any questions or comments about? I'm sure Mr. Grant will be able to help us out on that one too, maybe. Seeing none, the Access E11 July 2026 report, is there anything in that report that anyone had any questions or comments about? Seeing none, so we'll look for a motion that the minutes of the regular session of council dated July 28th, 2026, and the special session of council dated August 11th, 2026 be adopted as presented, that the minutes of the Recreation Advisory Committee, Trail of Development Advisory Committee, Waste Diversion Committee, Market Square Advisory Committee of July 2026 and August 13th, 2026 be received for information, that the correspondence for information items dated August 25th, 2026 be received. The council endorsed the proclamation request for the National British Home Child Day, and that the activity reports for Executive Services, Financial and IT Services, Fire Department, and Parks and Rec and Culture for the month of August 2026, and the Access E11 report for July 2026, items 8.6 through 8.10 be received for information. Moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Items for consideration. I don't believe we have any of those, Madam Clerk, if I'm not mistaken. So that gets us into the Executive Services Grass Bylaw Compliance Order 0307. And Madam Clerk, you're going to speak to this.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. At the July 28th meeting, council heard a deputation and requested a report back. So the report before you covers a number of areas. It covers the specific context of this order in question, as well as the enforcement of the grass bylaw in Greater Napanee more broadly. Staff do note that we're seeing an increasing trend across the board in requests for enforcement of bylaws as people become more familiar with using the E11 tool to submit requests. But grass does remain one of consistently in our top 5 areas where residents request enforcement action to be taken. Staff do acknowledge that the bylaw is over 25 years old. When we look at our other comparators, it's definitely the oldest bylaw in that list, and we would recommend that it be looked at. However, because it affects everyone, and we know that there's very strong feelings and opinions about what's important to have in a grass bylaw, we think it's really important to do extensive public consultation and get community input for council to hear what the residents of Greater Napanee feel is important to them to have in a grass bylaw, which is why we recommend that decision be a recommendation that the next term of council look at it very early, ideally before the next enforcement season begins, but that not be something that we try to rush through in the last couple months of this term, just because it is just about every property in town has some form of grass on it. And so it's something a lot of people, we should give them the opportunity to participate in that conversation. We do discuss the decision that was made by the Superior Court earlier this year, where there is a charter right around personal expression that can be made through lawns, particularly through the decision to naturalize lawns, which speaks to personal values. The court's decision really indicated that if a municipality is going to enforce a grass bylaw, it needs to be able to have policy reasons why that is necessary, as well as ensuring that it has taken a minimally impairing approach. Lots of Ontario municipalities are still working through what exactly that means in their specific local contexts. We do note in the report that Eastern Ontario does have a higher prevalence of Lyme disease and black-legged ticks than maybe other areas of the province, and that is certainly a valid consideration in a grass bylaw, as well as making sure that a lot of bylaw enforcement is making sure that neighbors can live with each other, that one person's right to use their own property doesn't cause negative impacts or unreasonably negative impacts to the people who are also living in that same area. Again, there's several options here before council for consideration, whether you want to tackle updating this bylaw now, defer that to the next term of council, and what you want to do with this specific order, whether it be set aside for the remainder of this year with an understanding that the property that's not an exemption forever, and the property will be subject to whatever new rules may or may not come into effect in the future. But staff are happy to respond to any questions the council may have on this.
Great, thanks, Madam Clerk. Who wants to start? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
It has to be addressed. All right, the key is with the bylaw, what one does, everybody has to do. What I find is I'm in agreement with the staff recommendation under one point that I think we should reduce, is the buffer zone from 15 feet to 10 feet. This alleviates any other areas of naturalization that we currently have, all right, that's bordering to somebody that wants to keep their lawn as a lawn, all right? So you don't have that grass or weeds or whatever it might be over on that property. So a 10-foot buffer, what they're suggesting, I feel is a very much of a compromise. And in the meantime, over the winter time in the new council, Jessica will be coming up and drafting a new bylaw, something that is palatable for everybody, whether the new council wants to have no naturalization or some naturalization or what they would like, but it gives everybody in the municipality that can have a voice towards it and go through that. So everybody will have a say, whether they do or they don't. Does the municipality want it or not want it? All right. So this is kind of a happy medium. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a fair approach. I agree with the municipality, but all we're asking for is a 10-foot buffer zone that with the reasons what Jessica had already done. So, and I'll move that staff recommendation.
Yeah, great. Thanks, thanks, Councillor Shank. We'll see if anyone else wants to weigh in. I'll weigh in, and then I'll come back to you for that motion. So, is there anything else before I weigh in? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Just the fact that we're going to be reviewing our bylaw and producing a new bylaw, I'm assuming, although maybe not, maybe it'll be the same as the old one. But I just think if there's going to be a staff review, this order to mow should be suspended and until that's done and we have a new bylaw in place. So that would be my recommendation. I know it's not staff recommendation, but that's my recommendation. I just feel that naturalization has to have some weight in this. Some people I know are worried about ticks, but and they're worried about noxious weeds, but sometimes you have to go beyond those things. I mean, it's very important that we also have pollination with our bees and with our butterflies. So I'm the opposite of some people's view on this, and I would just recommend, like I say, suspending this order temporarily until it's reviewed and a new bylaw comes forward. That's about the best I can say right now. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Martin. Go ahead, Councillor Norrie.
Just briefly, I pretty well agree with Councillor Martin. We have to look at each case, as we said, with the wetlands and whatnot, that the case by case. This is not the same. This lady's piece of property I went and looked at is not the same as Robert and Water Street. That is a mess. That should be cut. But they can't say, no, that's a wildland, because it's not. That's just one example. So she's done something proper. I think she should be put on hold until a new bylaw comes out, and again, look at them case by case. That's my opinion.
Great, thanks, Councillor Norrie. Is there anything else before I weigh in? Seeing none, I have to agree with Councillor Shank. I think what we're doing here is taking a very measured approach. I don't think we are in a position to completely discredit the risk of the black-legged tick. And the reason I say that is because back in, it's become a public safety issue at some point, because back in April of 2025, the Southeastern Health Unit put out a release that identified the risk of encountering the black-legged ticks. And I'll just read parts of it. And I know that there's folks out there that have the ability to find this, but the risk of encountering black-legged ticks in the Southeast region, where we are, is very high compared to the rest of the province. So we're in a part of the world that this is a very prevalent public health issue. That was in April of 2025. In May of 2026, they've released again, the health unit, the Southeastern Health Unit has released and said that the warm weather is here. The Southeast Public Health Unit is reminding residents that the region is an established high risk for black-legged ticks. So they've reconfirmed that we have an issue here. We have a problem here that we all know has the ability to spread the Lyme disease. Throughout my readings, I was able to, obviously, I went on to the Province of Ontario's website that talks about ticks, Lyme disease, avoiding tick bites. And the link is within, I thank Madam Clerk, because Madam Clerk has been so gracious to put that link in the staff report that we've seen. In that, so when you go to the link and you click it, it talks about maintaining your property. And it says you can help keep black-legged ticks away from your property by, and the first note is keeping grass mowed short. So it's very highly documented that we have a problem here. It's a high-risk area. And that's one of the ways in order to remedy the problem. And it's not going to make, I think we're all not naive enough to know that it's not going to completely, but it's going to mitigate the problem with the black-legged ticks is to keep some grass cut. So we, as a council, have to consider, and we're taking into consideration the naturalization. I think we are, because we've seen the case law. At least I have, and I've read through the case law. And the case law is somewhat helpful, but it's not completely helpful, because the case law doesn't address public health or safety issues, which I'm assuming in the city of Mississauga, they don't have the same issues that we do in the town of Greater Napanee or in the Southeast Health Unit area, catchment area. So while it's helpful, it is case law that we have to be cognizant of, but it doesn't completely cover the issues that we have here. And I think we have to keep in mind that there is a public health issue with respect to the black-legged ticks and the Lyme disease in our catchment area. So how are we going to rectify that, and how are we going to remedy that? I agree with Councillor Shank that a buffer zone, which also in the documentations from the province, it talks about buffer zones. And at one point, it talks about even considering placing, when you have equipment, swings and playground equipment and that types of thing, of placing wood chips or mulch on the foundation of that to try and help to mitigate the fact of the issue of the black-legged ticks. So I think the buffer zone is the most appropriate thing to do. And like I say, we have to not only take into consideration those folks that wish to have naturalized lawns, but we have to take into the consideration the rest of the population as well that may come in contact with a black-legged tick and get bit. So I have to agree with Councillor Shank with respect to what he's saying. I think we owe it to our community to ensure that we have done everything that we could do in light of the fact that we are cognizant, and the same as every other municipality in this province, is cognizant of the fact that their bylaws with respect to grass cutting probably should be reviewed. And I have to think with the extra time that we're going to have now as we're moving into the winter season or the fall season, it's going to provide us an opportunity to have a robust conversation with respect to cutting grass. It's going to provide us the opportunity to come up with an updated, a very thorough bylaw, which is going to take into account all the citizens. So having said that, and I guess what I should also, and I want to make sure that we've dotted all the i's and crossed the t's here, but there has been a large number of correspondences that get received and supported through quite a few of the 444 municipalities in this province, asking the province to get engaged in the assistance of trying to solve the Lyme disease problem that we have. So, and I think we all know that the best way of resolving the Lyme disease problem is not getting Lyme disease. So, and that, and I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have that documentation in front of me tonight, but I know that I could find it fairly quickly. And I noted that it's not only been received and supported by municipalities in the rural areas, it's been received and noted and supported by municipalities in northwestern Ontario, as well as those in the GTA area. So I think we need to do our due diligence on this at this point and provide some form of a buffer, which I think 10 feet is probably the fair amount, as we've heard in previous reports that the 15-foot buffer zone is a buffer zone that is being used by a municipality that's close to us. I think which would be fine, but I think the 10-foot buffer zone would be sufficient in order to provide the public safety that I think we need to provide with respect to this. So, having said all that, is there anything that anyone else would like to comment? And I'll put it back because I've obviously talked a lot this evening. Is there anything else anybody would like to say before I ask Councillor Shank to make a motion? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calver, and then I'll go to Councillor Martin.
Thank you, through your worship. So just for the public out there listening, our current bylaw, which is a law, states grass must be cut, the entire yard. What I'm hearing and understand from the report I've read is that we're going to not go with a 15-foot buffer zone, but a 10-foot buffer zone. That's acceptable for now until we have a chance to review our bylaws. So we are making a bit of an adjustment to our bylaw for this particular piece of property until such time we get a chance to review everything and review it thoroughly, which I think is more than fair. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Calver, and go ahead, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, since we are going to be reviewing our bylaw, and there could be changes to it, and in view of the fact that there's cold weather coming, there's going to be snow covering the ground, I don't think anybody's going to get any ticks from that. Can we not suspend this order to mow until that bylaw is reviewed?
We as a council, obviously, Councillor Martin can do whatever forehands say that we do when they put it in the air. But I think we just need to remind everyone that the issue with the tick population, unfortunately, a number of years ago, the cold weather used to kill them off. But unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore. So that doesn't kill them off. And from my understanding and the research I've done on it is that even the even the winters that we have here aren't sufficient enough to keep them at bay. So that's my understanding of it anyways. So, but like I say, we can, I'll entertain Councillor Shank's motion and then we'll go from there. So thank you.
I'll say one final thing. If you
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Shank.
The way I look at it, Councillor Martin, Councillor Norrie, is that the bylaw currently states you have to cut your whole lot. All right, it's a residential, not fully developed residential subdivision. All right, it's in a residential subdivision. So we have we had, I think, minimum of 60 complaints just in the south of different lots. All right, that the bylaw had to do. Most of them, or pretty well all of them, have done theirs. I understand the proponent was went ahead and said, hey, I've got a, you know, I don't live in the countryside all the time, but I've made a natural lawn here with this, that, to teach my kids and everything else, which he has a valid point. But all I'm saying is that if a 10-foot boundary, all right, because if you let this lady go 100% and not have a buffer, what about the proponent that's right beside it that wants to have their lawn cut perfectly? So 10 feet out of the acreage that she has, all right, on this, I feel is a fair and approachable, you know what I mean? Something that's protecting the neighbors and other locations also, and this location, all right? And it's something that's you're not going ahead and cutting the whole lot, especially when you have a valid point, and this should be addressed. We are going to address this. In the meantime, you're setting a precedent also. If you have a naturalized and you have done the work that the lady has done, you have to have a buffer around to protect your neighbors also. You can't just leave your yard into natural, because the next neighbor beside might not like that. So you have to take that under consideration also. That's the reason why I feel this is a fair and measured approach of what we're doing. So that's why I spread. There we go.
Great, thanks, Councillor Shank. We do have a recommendation. I think it was staff recommendation that you wish to, with the minor modification. I'll read it so everybody is aware of it. That council received for information Executive Services Grass Bylaw Review and Compliance Order 0307 report, and further that council direct that no changes be made to the grass bylaw at this time, but that a recommendation to review the bylaw in advance of the next enforcement season be presented to the next term of council, and further that council direct the compliance order 0307 be upheld and modified to require a buffer zone of 10 feet to be mowed on the south and east boundaries of the lot to a height below 10 inches, with an exception of any wetland areas, and with a compliance deadline of the 8th of September 2026. And you'll make that by way of motion? And we have a seconder. Councillor Davey is the seconder. Is there any further comments, questions, or concerns before we call for the vote? Councillor Martin.
Can we have a recorded vote, please?
Yeah. Oh, Madam Clerk is out here, so yeah. Madam Clerk, if there's nothing else, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Ward 1, Councillor
Yes.
Shank. Ward 3, Councillor Davey. Ward 4, Councillor Norrie.
No.
Ward 5, Councillor Martin.
No.
Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Yes.
Mayor Richardson.
Yes.
That motion's carried.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, folks. And thank you, Madam Clerk, for doing that. So moving on to the next matter, Financial and IT Services, OCIF Funding Support Resolution. And Mr. Murphy, you're going to speak to that.
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have a whole lot to add to the report in front of you. I think it speaks for itself in terms of the financial impact if OCIF was lost for the municipality. It is not a small amount of money, and the projects it goes towards on an annual basis, if those funds were lost, I think it would have a major impact on the municipality. As to what council wishes to do, that's totally up to them in terms of whether they want to advocate or whether they do not want to, or the method they wish to do so. But staff feel that this is an extremely important issue, and the financial impact would be significant on the budget as a whole. So happy to take any questions if you wish, but otherwise I'll leave it up to you.
Thanks, Nathan. Is there any questions or comments with respect to Mr. Nathan's presentation or the report that's in front of us this evening? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Financial IT Services OCIF Funding Support Resolution Report, and further that council support the Municipal Finance Officers Association of Ontario, the MFOA, requests that the province of Ontario make permanent the doubling of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund funding from 200 million to 400 million annually beginning in 2027, and that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Finance Officers Association of Ontario, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Member of Provincial Parliament for Hastings, Lennox, and Addington, and Ontario municipalities. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Norrie. If there's no further comments, questions, or concerns, all in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion's carried. Trails Development Advisory Committee initial recommendations. And Mr. Grant, when you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And through your worship, to members of council, this is the first set of recommendations from the Trails Development Advisory Committee. So the committee, as the Deputy Mayor has pointed out, has met twice. They have broken down their work into a number of different areas. So they're going to go over everything from safety and security to amenities, and the like. So they've put out a pretty robust work plan: safety, security issues, amenities, and accessibility, recommended service levels, and promotion of the trails. In going through their first and second meetings, the committee had a few recommendations that they wanted council to consider with respect to the trail, and those I would suggest. Should council adopt some of those recommendations, some of them would need to go to the budget process. But the committee itself felt that the new in-town trails should have encampment protocol restrictions around it. Now, I point out the encampment protocol already covers a significant portion of the in-town trails. Some of the trails are on public property, like streets and sidewalks, and that would already be covered. Some of them there would be, and I'll ask Madam Clerk to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 3 meters or 3 feet on either side.
I think Madam Clerk wants to weigh in there first, Matthew.
Sorry, just to clarify through your worship, right now, because there's no trail, there's an existing buffer setback of 10 meters from the private property line. So the middle where the rails were could technically have an encampment on it. I believe that once a trail is built, the buffers will overlap to the point that the entire area will be a sensitive use anyway without making any bylaw amendments. But my understanding is the recommendation is the Trail Development Committee just wanted to make extra sure. Because it will be the trail itself plus 5 meters on either side, plus the 10 meters coming in from the private property line is very likely covering that whole area.
And thank you. There may be a small area or two along that trail that would not be covered by private property, but the vast majority of it will be, or would touch on the distance from a cemetery. So with that, we could be directed to look at any remaining areas, and that should go through an encampment protocol review process. I would suggest that council welcome e-bikes and e-scooters onto the town trail and ensure where appropriate speed limits are in place, that the town consult with the OPP on a minimum number of security cameras that be considered for installation on the town trails, that council consider laying the appropriate conduit during trail construction to accommodate any lighting and security cameras that might be required, and the town explore funding opportunities through grants to support all trail amenities. And staff looking at this, a lot of great ideas coming out of the Trail Development Advisory Committee. I would, as the sitting staff member there, offer the following reflections. we could expand sensitive use designations to the periphery of in-town trails. I think that should be part of a broader review process. And as the clerk has mentioned, much of it is already covered, but there will be the odd pockets that may have some areas that we may want to look at. But it should be in the broader context, I believe, that council defer the promotion and acceptance of e-scooters and e-bikes on in-town trails until such time as it decides on whether it wishes to permit the use of the EV by bylaw, which is required by provincial legislation. That council directs staff to consult with the OPP on the appropriate location for security cameras. That council directs staff to include estimates for solar lighting and remote security cameras on the in-town trails as part of the 2027 budget process. I think we can meet their intent without necessarily putting in conduit at this point in time. And that council directs staff to include trail amenities as a focus in its 2027 grant acquisition strategy. And with the grants strategy coming forward, that will make a ton of sense. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And in your report, you'll have the recommendations that the committee made up top, staff's reflections underneath, and what I would recommend is council may want to have each recommendation in a separate motion.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Councillor Norrie.
Just quickly, the one I'm opposed to till we have more legislation is the e-scooters on those things. I'm going to bring up something under inquiries. I don't want to double dip, but without lights and dark and these things, I know under the law and the road can't go above 24 kilometers an hour, but Cakeson had a fellow going 77 and it's facing a lot of charge. So I would like to see that one scratched in there for now until you don't want to eliminate mobility things, but it's very slippery slope if you're not too careful. That would just be my only suggestion for now.
Thanks, Councillor Norrie. And I think that's part of the recommendation is to defer that. And I mean, I agree with you because this whole e-bike scooter scenario is evolving, I guess is the best way to put it. So, but I think the recommendation, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Grant, was to defer that anyways until there's some clarification, but I'll let you speak to that.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So the way that the committee recommendation sheets are laid out is the committee's recommendations are on top, staff's reflections are on the bottom. My reflection is that you should defer that until such time that council makes a decision on the broader e-scooter situation, which would be required anyway.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you, Mr. Grant. Is there anything else? I think Councilor Martin was going to.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Grant, I agree with most everything, and thank goodness that we're working towards finishing the in-town trail. It's going to be wonderful. Certainly agree with lighting and cameras. The sensitive use issue is a big deal for me. I'd love to see it as sensitive use on the trail as well. But I got Springside Park that I'm really concerned about right now. I'm really concerned about the children playing down there right now. There's people walking their dogs, children running and playing in our Springside Park. And that's not a sensitive use area. It should be. So I'm saying if we're going to put sensitive use on the trails, Springside Park should be sensitive use as well. And there's something's got to change here because I'm going to be awful upset. I'm really, really ticked off right now what's going on down there. But anyway, I'll leave it at that for now.
Thanks. Thanks, Councilor Martin. Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
Through you, Mr. Mayor and Councilor Martin, I share your concern. I do. Not only the impact on the citizens, but the impact on the services that citizens pay for is significant. And as well, the individuals living there are also not having a great time of it. So given that, if there is a concern about looking at it in isolation, and I would agree that that's fair, there may be an opportunity to review the sensitive area more broadly as part of the annual education program that we're doing. You could also take a look at the legislation in that, with the indication from the Morningstar mission that they intend to move, their service functions may also shift. There has been some preliminary discussions about expanding their services, and if they expand those services to a point, or the county expands those services to a point where there is a shelter or some shelter spaces in town, town council has the ability to revisit the amount of sensitive use areas that exist, because the balance, and that's what it's all about, is balance with in the absence of shelter space, we have to err on the side of caution. If there does seem to be shelter space with a move, and that may happen, then I think we would be in a position to reevaluate. We still wouldn't be able to protect everything, but we may be able to expand. So I would suggest, Councillor Martin, that would be appropriate to address those concerns, to move it to a broader review so we don't look at anything in isolation, if that's the will of council.
Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Matthew. I think you hit on it right there. A broader review would be better, because if we are going to look at sensitive use area, a trail, it's absolutely asinine to not include Springside Park down there. I mean, we've got visitors going down there, hundreds of them every day. I wouldn't even be surprised if it would hit 1,000 people down there. And there's kids walking with, I've picked up needles myself off the ground and took them to a needle drop off. It's dangerous for kids. It's dangerous for people being down there in that park. So this gives me a perfect opportunity to complain about that with the trails. So, and I'm not against that on the trails either, because I believe me, and I know it's a problem everywhere. Everybody's really ticked off with what's been going on with the tents and the homeless conditions and sort of thing. Residents, taxpayers, they can't use their park because of what's going on, and that's not fair to them. So, and I know it's county and it's province, and our hands are tied, and I understand all that, but I'm just saying, sensitive use, if we can use that in the park as well as the trails, you're going to make a lot of people happy. So there you go.
Yeah, good, Mr. Grant.
So thank you, through Mr. Mayor. I'd say, Councilor Martin, I agree that there's a lot of concern. I would say that Greater Napanee has gone further than most in terms of protection. So Conservation Park in its entirety is off limits, and we've had great success in making sure that we've minimized conflicting use in those areas. There's been a few other areas where we've had a tremendous success. We've been able to partner with social service agencies and law enforcement, and I would say that in the event that there is a proper shelter option in town, I'm cautiously optimistic we might see that in the future. I know that the Morning Star mission is, and their move is looking at their options. I think the county has been in on those discussions and supportive of Morning Star mission's broader mandate. I can't say too much because it's not my discussion to have, but so I'm keeping an eye on that situation very closely, and appreciating that many council members would like to be protect as much area as we can. If the situation changes where we can strike different balance because there's more amenities available for those that are homeless, I will be the first in line to bring that to you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I appreciate what you're saying there, and I know this council, this town staff, everybody has done everything we can legally do with the homeless situation, but it's important to say legally, because we have to act within the law. And unfortunately, going back to, 1982 or something, when the Charter of Rights come out, or when it's affected what we're doing here today, actually, I believe. So anyway, what we can do with Springside Park, I'm happy to hear that at least it's going to be in the mix of speaking about it. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councilor Moore. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Cower.
Thank you, through your worship. Just to Madam Clerk. I'm just wondering, what is the buffer zone for a trail, and is there a different buffer zone for trail versus parking lot? Because I think what the biggest complaint is that I'm hearing at Springside Park is the 3/10 right along the edge of the parking lot as you come down. If you want to come down and enjoy your lunch break and go for a walk, that's what you see. I just wondered if is there a buffer zone from parking lots, or is it just from the trail itself?
So through your worship, under the current bylaw, the setback is on or within 5 meters of a walking path or trail, parking lot, or designated pedestrian access point. So it is the same buffer for both.
Okay, so they're definitely not the 5 meters from the parking lot. Thank you. And to Councillor Martin, I don't believe the county actually had a part in creating this problem, but we do have a problem and we are working at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Calver. Is there anything else? Seeing none, we do have a recommendation that council receive for information the Trails Development Advisory Committee initial recommendations report, and further that council expand the sensitive use designation to the periphery of the in-town trails to those areas not already captured by boundaries associated with the recreational amenities and private property. That council to further promotion or acceptance of e-scooters and e-bikes on in-town trails until such time as it decides on whether it wishes to permit the use of these vehicles by bylaw as per the provincial legislation. The council directs staff to consult with the OPP on the appropriate location for security cameras and in-town trails. The council directs staff to include estimates for solar lighting and remote security cameras on the in-town trails as part of the 2027 budget process. And council directs staff to include trail amenities as a focus of its 2027 grant acquisition strategy. Moved by Councillor Shank, second by Councillor Davey. Is there any further comments, questions, and concerns with respect to that motion? Go ahead, Mr. Grant.
So, Mr. Mayor, just in reflection of the conversation that council's had, I think the only amendment to that motion that I might make, Mr. Mayor, is to defer protection of the trail to a broader review process, if that's the will of council.
Yeah, we do have a motion on the floor. I'll go to them. I'll go to the movers and the seconders. Perfect. Madam Clerk, do you have what you have?
So through your worship, just to be clear, the first clause would be that council refer the request to expand the sensitive use designation to those that are already captured to a broader review process. I believe that's already been scheduled for this coming winter.
Mover and seconder, good? Is there anything further? Not, we'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motions on the floor? Opposed, motion is carried. Information, bylaws. We don't have any bylaws. Information reports from members. I don't believe we have any of them. Inquiries. Do any members of council have any inquiries with respect to anything? Councillor Nori.
Actually, I had a information.
Well, we can.
First, and I've got 2 inquiries.
Well,
me just
I'll
talk?
tell you what, let's go back to the information reports first, and then we'll go to the inquiries. I'm going to let you have at her.
Thank you. I'll do my best to be quiet. From the Arts Committee, they had the final Music in the Park on August 8th, very successful. And I just segue into what was been said beside me. People were relaxed and happy because they could enjoy their park, not like last year. I'll leave that part at that, but it was over 100 people, so they were very, very happy. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Inquiries, want to go in there too?
Yeah, 2. I think 1 you've already addressed, Mr. Grant, but I was bringing up the e-scooters and that because the provincial government has said it's towns and municipalities' responsibility for those things, except for speed. I think it's 24 kilometers an hour. And I'm worried about liability if we don't do something and people are like bowling pins on certain sidewalks in different cities. And I don't want that to happen here. And I've seen some adult age people acting like children on our sidewalks. So are we looking into that? Or are they about what we can do? I know we won't have enforcement, but to protect us liability wise? Are you looking into that?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, to the counselor. So Counselor Nora, I would say we will absolutely look into that. So we would have to bring forward a bylaw to govern that in the use of municipal spaces, and it would be our intention to do that in the new term.
Thank you, because I know Kingston, I don't think allows them anywhere technically, but. And the number two is, as we talked about, and I see that Kylie sent out a rough estimate to the media, what's costing for a 1388 bridge. I don't expect to send out to media regularly, but can we put on our website possibly an update what it's costing so the taxpayers are aware, and maybe some photos of what's coming out of there so the public knows what's going on? Because maybe not the disgusting stuff, but you know what I'm trying to say is if we could just inform them more what's going on so they can be more aware of why we're doing what we're doing and what it's costing them. Just an idea.
So sure, through you, Mr. Mayor, it is our intention to put a full release out on the completion of phase 2, and I'm going to bring forward a full report. But since you've asked the question, I can say I expect that work for phase 1, which was about 35 trailers that we pulled out, and phase 2, which would be 100 cubic tons. So 100 basically tons of material coming out. It's more than we thought. It's acetylene tanks, it's propane tanks. We found homemade septic fields and drug paraphernalia. It's not a good scene. So that's come out. Phase 1 and phase 2 were let to local contractors by competitive bid. Those contracts combined will be anywhere between $120,000 and $145,000. That's what I expect the bill to be in that neighborhood. We are expecting permits for the property. Well, we require permits for a Quonset hut that's there, as well as a mobile trailer where a property owner is living. You can't have that unless you have a permit for your construction of single family home. Deadlines have been given, no permits have been received. I expect that there will be a phase 3 and that material has to be pulled out. So roughly we'd be in the neighborhood of 150 to 160. A lot of that would be billed back to all of it, the work of the contract, we bill back to the property owner as per the court order. What won't be recouped is the lost capacity that the town has incurred. So we've had the fire department there. We have had bylaw services there for the last 2.5 weeks, providing a level of security on site. There's been individuals that have been moving in and out of what is actively a construction site. Bylaw has also been instrumental in pointing out things on the property that can be removed per court order and things that cannot be removed. We are permitted to take certain things off the property and not others. So they've been instrumental in that. With that, members of the community have had to suffer a lower level of service for bylaw enforcement because they've been otherwise engaged. So legal fees, we've gotten recoup a percentage of the legal fees to date, but we're not going to recoup all of those. So it has been a massively significant undertaking in what was an unsafe and unsanitary situation that presented a danger and a risk to the people that were staying there, and presented candidly a public health risk to the point we're going to have to call in the Ministry of Environment for some of the damage that has happened there. So it is not a small thing. It's been expensive. The work that's happened will be recouped one way or another. The court order also allows us to place the cost of the contractors on property taxes if the money's not forthcoming, and the law allows us to seize property if that's not paid. But we were compelled to act because this was unsafe, unsanitary, and unjust.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure the public will appreciate having further updates as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Norrie. Is there anything else? Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Sorry, through your worship. I just want to go back to the e-scooter question because I've been getting it a lot lately as well. So to clarify, if the town does not have a bylaw that says they're allowed, then they're not allowed. And the town does not currently have a bylaw. So we're in the same position as the city of Kingston currently, just for clarity.
Good. I wish the people would learn that.
And I know that, well, and you probably know as well, Bob, is that the OPP is they're working on it, and it's kind of frustrating them as well because of the different makeups of these types of things too. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done probably at the provincial level to try and sort it out. So, but thanks for bringing it up. Is there anything else as far as the inquiries go? Seeing none, notice to motions. I don't believe anybody has any notice to motions. New business. I don't believe we have any new business. Announcements. Does anybody want to make any announcements this evening? Seeing none. CAO's remarks. Mr. Grant, did you have any remarks you would like to make this evening?
Nothing for me this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. The forward counter. I know we've all had an opportunity to take a look at it. Is there anything in the forward code? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Calvert.
Just want to verify the September 8th meeting for the forward counter is at the Roblin Hall. Is that correct?
Through your worship, yes, that's correct. Our next meeting will not be in this building. Don't come here. We'll be at Roblin. We will be live streaming the meeting the same as we did when we met at South Fred Hall.
Thank you. I seen that in there, but I thought when we were talking about changing, I thought we were doing the Selby Hall. That's why I was questioning that. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Calvert. Was there anything else with respect to the forward calendar? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the for the council of the corporation of the town of Greater Napanee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Calvert, seconded by Councillor Davey. Read a first, second, and finally passed this 25th day of August, 2026. All in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion is carried. And motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Davey, second by Councillor Shank. There's no further comments, questions, concerns. All in favor of that motion? Opposed, motion is carried. Thanks, folks. And as you heard, we'll see you from Selby.